Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Um, okay, Chris, thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties, man. That's the craziest part about doing a virtual podcast is I'm reliant on technology. When I used to do these in person, it was like we're in a quiet studio, all the equipment's right in front of me. I got the guests right in front of me. If the guest starts glitching out on me, it's happening in person. Can help them correct course, all that stuff. So, man, I so
Right.
appreciate you joining me. Welcome to the show, everybody on KCBC. You know, these new episodes we're doing in 2026. We don't do any fancy intro music anymore. Uh, no no long-winded sponsor messages, anything like that. Got my friend Chris Thomas here from Brit Boy Street Food on the show. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So glad to have you, man. So I have to tell everybody, and you tell me your side of the story as well. But you and I met last year on 4th of July at a park here in our town where we live. And you and I I don't even know how, but just struck up conversation. And I think it was like 30 seconds in, I was like, oh, yeah, he's got a British accent. Oh, man, what's his story? And we just started talking. And my family was rollerblading, and I was sitting down with you, and I lost track of time, man. I was just like, this dude is the coolest ever, runs his frozen food company, all this. Then you started asking me about what I do, and I was like, well, it's kind of funny. I do a podcast and I talk to businesses. And at that point in time, I didn't know if I was going to come back, man. I think I had told you, I was like, I got 3 more in the hopper and I'm really kind of burnt out. I don't, I was telling you about the challenges. That was season 6. And I had like literally 5 people that had just fallen off the map. And I was like, why am I even doing this anymore and all that? And so my promise to you was, Chris, if I bring the show back, would you be happy? Would you be, not would you be happy? Would you come on the show and tell your story? And you're like, yeah, man, let's do it. And we exchanged phone numbers, which is not common for me either. People that I just meet, usually pretty private, but man, you just put me at ease. And I was like, I loved your story. Kind of envisioned this happening at one point, and then we finally made it happen, man. So I appreciate your patience, and actually kind of got glad it took a while because you've been on the news numerous times since then. You're still
So much
working.
for having a face for radio.
What's that?
So so much for having a face for radio. So yeah, it's I've been in front of the camera quite a bit the last 4 weeks or so. So yeah.
That's right, man. So yeah, maybe you could tell us a bit about that. I know Brit Boy is celebrating a year coming up, and this is your opportunity too. I mean, I should have said this before we started recording, but my goal in this podcast is for me to listen twice as much as I speak. I know that you've told your story in other places, but we all know too, when you talk to the news, you give them about an hour, 2 hours of footage, and they cut it up into like 8 seconds worth of stuff. And I even noticed with the recent one, there was ones where I could tell you're probably dropping a banger with the person who was interviewing you, but they had to like cut it up and chop it. So there's bits and pieces here, but man, the floor is yours. So go for it.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was you strike up conversation in places. I'm in, sales and marketing background, so I talk to people, and you just never after anything, never trying to get anything from anybody. You just never know where it might lead. So the fact that you live a mile away from me and we met while you were rollerblading, you just never know what'll happen when you just say hi to people. And it's
That's
kind
right,
of the
man.
reason we actually found ourselves back in Kansas City from Seattle. Was what we experienced at the park was the exact opposite of what we experienced in Seattle. We'd go take the dogs for a walk before we had a kid or spend any time at children's playgrounds. And, you'd look up and you'd say hi to people and they'd be on their phones and they'd be laser focused on anything but personal interactions. And I remember my wife getting back from a dog walk on her lunch break one time, and she was so pissed off. She was like, I hate this. I hate it here. Because she literally tried 8, 9 times during a dog walk just to say hi to people as they're walking in the opposite direction, and she got nothing back from them. And it helps us realize, nah, it's probably not our crowd up there. And several years later, we ended up moving back to Kansas City, where my wife's from. So we had the
Right.
exact opposite interaction, at the park. So yeah, man.
Absolutely.
but no, as you kind of alluded to, we're about to celebrate our 1 year anniversary. So if this goes out before Saturday 21st and you're
It
listening to
will.
this,
It's
come
going
join
out
us.
today,
It
bro.
will. Okay.
It's going
Oh,
out
it's going
today.
out today.
In an
Okay. You've got
hour,
a
dog. We're gonna drop this.
in
Yeah.
an hour. Oh, so well, one take Thomas here. So there's not much editing involved then.
Hey, and my middle name is Thomas, bro. So we're
That's
aligned.
right. There you go.
We talked about that, I
So
think.
yeah, if you're listening to this week, come celebrate with us. It's an open invitation. Bring friends, bring family at Friction Beer Company in downtown Shawnee on Johnson Drive in Neiman. They've been great supporters since I started. I knew them before the business. And kind of this idea of Brit Boy, ironically, came about while watching the Premier League games there on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. So yeah, I guess where to start is we were actually at Friction about 18 months ago watching the Premier League games. The bartender that I've met
And
several
that's
times.
soccer, right?
Yes, sorry,
Soccer game.
Premier League
Yep.
Soccer.
Yep.
Friction is a local Premier League soccer bar. They try and put all the games on no matter the time and try and get a watch party going for the
Amazing.
9 a.m. games, which is the 3 o'clock games in England. The schedule's been pretty crap for them to do that this year. There's not been a lot of 3 o'clock Saturday games in England happening, so it's not been as not popular. It's not just not logistically, it hasn't happened this year like it did last. Um, so I saw the bartender and he was selling donuts, and I was like, "Aren't you the bartender?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've been in the food and beverage business for 20 years, and I like making donuts, so I'm trying this kind of side gig thing and kind of seeing where it's going to go." I was like, I can do that. And my background is like, why do I think that? Simply, my background of 12 years was doing events with high end retail stores. So Costco, Sam's Club, Safeway, Kroger, any type of grocery store throughout the country. We played the middleman role. So we were client facing, we had a product, and it was our job to talk and market and educate and ultimately sell the product to consumers of these stores. So that kind of event based product marketing is my bread and butter for 12 years. And had no idea it was going to be a pie company. I had no idea of what the product really was going to be. Um, and we just kinda came home when I've been a cook my whole life because eating out has always been very expensive, so I've learned to cook and, inspired by my home economics teacher of a mother, and I had some recipes already kind of, that came straight to the surface. "Alright, this will be definitely one of them. This will be 2, this will be 3," and then there's been 3 or 4 developments along the way, but I really like the idea of just having a product in front of customers, and if you really get another layer or two down, the business model was let's feed people that are drinking because they're going to like it. I don't pretend I am not a chef. I am not culinary trained. I'm a home cook that's learned a lot through this process, and through TV and YouTube. And I see something and then I try and recreate it, put my own spin on it. And generally speaking, the feedback's been very positive over the years I've done this. But yeah, ultimately it was like, let's feed drunk people and make some money. And maybe we can even drink for free while we're working because, they'll hook us up. So if I'm going to be drinking, I might as well be making some money at the same time. But that's
That's
where it really
incredible.
started. And ironically, when 18 months ago, should I say, um, we built the model. And then because it's protein based, there's a lot of paperwork. I can't do anything out of my house. It doesn't fall under any cottage law or anything like a bakery does, or anything that's just pastry and bread and flour. You can
Really?
do a lot of that at home in depending on what state you're in and the rules. But a lot of stuff that you find at farmers markets is done at home because there's no protein involved, and the temperature regulations for said product are not as strict as they are with proteins.
Dude, that's
So
wild. We've never
because
covered this
I
on the show. I'm super excited about this. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, because I don't deal. I know I don't qualify for it, so I'm hopefully not misspeaking here. So, once I learned that I can't do anything out of my own home, and I've got to have a commercial kitchen, catering license, all these different things, and I work a corporate job, 9 till 5 here in my basement. There's just no way I've got the time to do this business. So, um, no worries, we tabled it, and then essentially 2 months later, myself and my wife got fired within 30 seconds of each other over Christmas. We worked for the same company, and a relatively new president had been in the company, and he basically fired everybody. So that was on the Friday, and then on the Monday, we bought the domain Brit Boy Street Food, and we simply got to work in this uncharted minefield of what it would be like to run a food company, and that was literally 14 months ago. So and now we're here.
Freaking incredible, man.
So
Dude,
that's
that
the
is
original origin story, should I say?
dude. I think you might have told me that before, but to hear it just the history and how literally it was a weekend and you took that I know because I've been laid off, right? The rage, the pain, the confusion, the what the heck are we going to do next, and actually doing something productive with that. And I have to tell you too, Chris, so the scramble I had this week when I was like, okay, I'm doing research on you, the business, and going down the real rabbit hole, and I was like, man, I always do my best to try the products. If I have people on this show, like, if I've got Sharon from Black Drip, it was like, I wanted to try Black Drip coffee before it came on, right? And so I texted you knowing there was a process for all of this and going on your website. Just first off, I'm like, dude, this website is so fun to use. It like flows easily.
Yep, the
It's,
click-through rate is insane. Like
I'll
the
bet.
click, it's from an analytics perspective.
Yeah, you got the font, the look, your color scheme. Like obviously I'm wearing one of your hats. I love the brand and I love how there were so many awesome options. And so I'm also thinking cuz I know you, I'm like, shit, he cooks all this stuff, and like just looking at it, it's so cool. It's so easy to use. You've set up these partnerships. I mean, you're about to reach a year this month, right? You're having the year celebration party at Friction, and looking at what you and your wife have accomplished, because I know y'all attack this from both sides, right? Like you're a team. That was something I was very inspired. I got to meet her as well at the park, and just hearing you about how you both work together with your strengths. And I remember the first thing you said too, you're like, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad. And I was like, that, dude, I love that. I absolutely love that. But going down that rabbit hole of trying to pick out what to order, it was fun. It was like a game. I was like, well, I can't order it all, but like, what do I start with? And that's where, I looked, you got gluten-free options now as well, which, people may not know when they look at these pies and they see that it's cooked with, the dough and the ale and all that. There's like nothing about either of those are gluten-free, but you made, is it Berea? Is that how you pronounce it? Berea pie?
Yeah, Berea. So
Berea.
honestly, I've kind of stolen it's a relatively new flavor for me. I started a local Mexican restaurant 3 years ago, and I was like, oh, I love these birria tacos. What's that? And I was blown away. And again, we live in Kansas, so the Mexican food, I take it or leave it. I enjoyed it, so it was like,
There's
what,
some
this will
great
be
joints
great in
out
a
there.
pie.
Yeah.
So, but no, funny with the birria, and this is just where, self-taught and learning as I go, it wasn't gluten-free to start with. And then there's so
Wow.
much other flavors in there because my base flavor, not my base flavor, but, English cooking, slow cooked meats, cooking with beer gives it more levels of flavor. But the birria has so many more levels than just a steak and ale mushroom English pie. It doesn't need the beer, and we don't use flour. So I was like, wait a second, this is gluten free. Let's tell people about it. So it was a
Yes,
happy
sir.
accident, if I'm being honest with you. So
And
but it works.
brother and Stephanie, my wife, she had it and she loved it. No side effects. It was awesome. It was awesome. My kids, the sausage rolls. I wanted to make them this morning. Like I had this plan. Like I was gonna take a bite while we were eating, and I'm like, well, I'll have Chris on the show again. We could do that again. But the kids, I thought, because there's spices, you use a lot of the peppers and things like that. And my kids loved it too. And we're all just sitting there at the table, and it was an experience, man. I had to fire up the oven. You gave me the tips of like, hey, man, leave the sausage rolls a little bit in a little bit longer, and I'm sure that's what you're figuring out as people give you feedback for the food and all that. And there was nothing left. Like there were no leftovers, dude. That was 4 sausage rolls and 2 burrito pies, and nothing went back in the fridge. And that's why I texted you. I'm like, this is going to be a problem, dude. This is going to be a big problem for me,
It's
in the best
sausage rolls are the
possible way.
gateway drug.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the
And
sausage rolls are the gateway
I
drug. You
mean,
know, have one of those and just yeah. So
and they're great for, we
yeah,
had it for dinner, but I could eat that for breakfast. I could cook a bunch, take
it's
it to
great cold
lunch.
too.
It's okay. I'll try it.
Yeah,
I'll try if I can
it's a
manage to have
completely
some
different
leftovers.
it's a completely different flavor as well. Like I literally had one 2 days ago just in the kitchen. It was in the fridge, and I was like, we chopped it up, and it's a completely different flavor cold. And you don't think of eating cold pork really, you know, like that anyway. But it's a completely different experience, mouthfeel and texture, and the flavor comes out differently.
Absolutely, man. And so, where I was kind of going with that too is what you've been able to accomplish in your first year. If no one's told you lately, or if I don't know how you feel about it as an entrepreneur, because I know we can all be our own worst enemy and all that stuff. But what you've accomplished, the the fact that you're able to keep up with the demand, that you have these local partnerships, when people order, they get delivered to these local markets, people are supporting local businesses, they're getting, you know, British made food, right? Like, what you've been able to accomplish is incredible. Can you share with our audience maybe some of the things that you and your wife have leveraged or learned in the process? We always get into lessons learned on this show, right? I think it's so important to understand, because we know it's not luck, right? I mean, there's a little bit of that in business ownership, but a lot of it is intention. And I can tell with you, you have intentionally engineered this business, and, you're appearing everywhere. You guys do pop-ups, Lenexa City Market, right? You go to the brewery, all this. What are some things that y'all have done along the way in this first year to make it so impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I actually I don't this is a new realm for me. I'm not I'm confident in what I'm doing. If I'm going to speak to people, it's because I've kind of done it, if you will, or I've done conference speaking and things like that, because I've proven I know what I'm doing on said subject. So I've been asked to, you know, present and speak. But I don't like the limelight. I'm not fame motivated. I am actually a quiet person. But on the flip side, I do love to bring people together, and that is a core trait of mine. Not so everyone can, you know, oh, look at Chris, look at Lizzie, any of that stuff. It's just I love bringing people together. Over Christmas, we had a cocktail party where everyone brought the booze and some apps to like present a cocktail. Nobody knew each other. They were all just different couples that me, myself, and my wife knew. And you know, everyone got along. We played some games. Everyone had a great time, and they all met other people that they'd not met before. So just as an example, you know, nothing to do with the business, we just like bringing people together. And we've always kind of done that. So with the food business, that's kind of one of the big things that it lets us, you know, enables us to do is, you know, if we get our advertising right and so on and so forth, people are going to come to an event, come to a farmer's market, have interactions and engagements with other people while they're, you know, with their family, with their friends, but sharing, the same meal together, if you will, and you know, seeing how everybody else reacts. Oh, what did you have? What did you have? And that's really cool. And then on the same kind of principle to that is when we started this, it was literally feed people drinking in a brewery. That was it. And then we did several of those, and it went really well. It was very cool and very nerve-wracking to see people bite your food right in front of you, not really knowing what to expect because they've never had it before, never heard of me, were brand new. And I remember it was a podcast actually. I catered a Pheasant Fest podcast downtown before my opening event, ironically. And this big burly farming guy was in town for this pheasant fest, and he bit into it, and his whole face just had this reaction, and he couldn't believe what he was eating. And then again, he was a big guy, probably doesn't share his meal too often. He was literally giving bites to his friends, and he was like 3 feet in front of me because the place was packed, and I was just like clenching. I was like, I really hope he likes it. So that's where it was, and that's where it started. And then opportunities present themselves. So we're like, all right, farmers markets, that's kind of the next thing to do. But what does that even look like? Do we sample? Do we do hot food? And again, happy accident, straight up. The farmers market starts at 8 a.m. If I'm serving hot food, I've got to be in the kitchen at 5 a.m.
That's right.
So selfishly, I'm like, I don't want to be in the kitchen at 5 a.m. So let's sell frozen. And then it was like, we vacuum seal everything manually. We don't have all these fancy equipment and vacuum sealing and packaging stuff, right? So it's like, Well, if I vacuum seal in 2 packs, it's half the time of if I vacuum seal in 1 packs. So we did 2 packs, which is obviously more expensive. And then the first farmers market, we did triple what we do when we do a hot event from a financial standpoint in less time with no heating up, right? So it's like, holy crap, we're a frozen food business. So, you say yes and you kind of play around, and because I don't want to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning warming stuff up,
Right.
we've turned into a frozen food business. And then the next problem we had to solve was, well, how the heck do we get this to people without me having to drive throughout the city every day and deliver it, which I don't really have the capacity for that. This is the first 6 months of launching this, I was a stay-at-home dad during the day, and then my wife's been at work. She's out the house 55 hours a week. So we would basically hand the baby off after work, where I would go cook from 6 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And ultimately, um, he's yelling at me upstairs
Hey,
now.
that's cool.
So
Say hi to him, dude. Say hi.
we'll get him down later once he's dressed. But ultimately, we were just tag teaming, the situation and what we were doing. But the farmers market was a happy accident. And then we've just really doubled down on that. So how do we get this frozen food to our customers? And again, that principle of bringing people together, I had several businesses say, no, I don't have the freezer space. That's fine. I'm in sales. People tell me no all the time. Um, Ironically, how they told me no didn't sit very well with me to certain businesses.
Mm,
They generally did lose my patron, my custom as a patron, because of just how, quite frankly, rude they were.
yeah.
But other business were, said no, they don't have the space. It's not something they want to take on. No problem whatsoever. So after 9 no's, I found my yes, and they said, yeah, absolutely, we've got freezer space. So what does this look like? So we talked, we educated each other, and how this would work. And ultimately, that is the goal of, you buy my food, you have to go into a different small local business to collect it. Maybe you've been there before, maybe you haven't. And now you're exposed to this new, different business that you didn't even know existed. And maybe you spend some money then, maybe you go back later on. And I would like to share a story. The British store, Redcoats, which unfortunately isn't around anymore. They
Mm.
they decided to close after 10 years. A customer picked up my full Monty 12 pack of pies from Redcoats. Again, didn't know it existed. And I saw her at a pop-up event, 2, 3 weeks later, and she told me, it was great at home. She actually came to try the birria when I launched it, so she came to a pop-up event, even though she's got all of my pies in the freezer. And she spent about $300 in the store over 4 transactions. So she kept going back to her car and then going back into the store to spend more money. And it's just a great story of like why I wanted to partner with other businesses. They're helping me out. And, how can I get more foot traffic to them? So same with these breweries that I work with. If you go into the brewery and pick up your stuff, have a pint. Why not?
Might as well.
And I was a little late delivering the other week, and the guy had 2 pints while he was waiting for me to deliver. He was bang on time, and I was a little late. So he spent $20 in the brewery while he was waiting for his food. It's really nice to just the cross overlap, that we're not competition, we're not stealing each other's food, if you will. And it's just that collaboration is really cool.
Gosh, man. Like I just what I'm so inspired by is how it has just how it started just from this thing of loving to bring people together, and that this business has unfolded, literally unfolded before you and Lizzie into what it is now. And what I'm so excited about is what it's going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now. One thing I do want to circle back to about the kitchen space, because I did notice that from our previous conversations. I know you don't cook at home. I love how you explained the protein-based business too. By the way, because there's a lot of fitness and bodybuilder folks that listen to this show, y'all can get about
Okay.
65 to 75 grams of protein from a birria pie. And I know y'all are smart and you don't cut out your carbs. You need your carbs too. Get on to BritBoyStreetFood.com. That's the website, right? and
Is it?
get some pies. Okay. So, but to go back to that, like finding a place where you can cook this stuff, finding a place where you can store it. Now you explained like some of it gets stored at these markets that you have partnerships with, but what was that like finding a kitchen? How does that even work, man? Like, how do you
Yeah.
find a place that's going
Yeah.
to let
So
you cook on a schedule? And yeah,
yeah, so I got very lucky because what you've just described is what makes this type of thing very difficult, and quite frankly, will limit the size that you can get to. There are shared commercial kitchens out there, and you pay a price for how often you use it, but it's got to be very scheduled and regimented, and people are in there before you, and they're in there after you. So all of that stuff. If it's general prep, like a lot of food trucks do a lot of just prep, and then they put it on the truck, and then they go to the location, and they warm the meat up fresh, if you will, but all the veggies are prepped and stuff like that.
right.
They don't need to be in this commercial kitchen for very long because it's slicing and dicing, and the more hands you've got, the faster it'll happen. Um, all of my food takes 4 to 5 hours in the oven. So renting a kitchen for 2 hours is pointless. It's not feasible. And then I now I've got it for 10 hours a day. And then does that really make sense? So on and so forth. So I just got lucky. I had a connection with a church up north, which is where I do all my cooking, Brit Boy Street Food. When you Google us, that's our location. That's where we do all of our cooking. And I'm the only, they've got this huge commercial kitchen in this huge church, and nobody except the patrons are using it because it's not a kind of rented out commercial kitchen by the hour. So we just had a conversation, told him what I was trying to do, and he cut me a deal. And I just signed my 2nd-year lease there. So yes, price went up because I'm using it a lot more than I was a year ago.
Right. Yeah.
So I got more expenses, and 1 year in, my rent's already gone up. But yeah, he's really let me have the run of the place. I got my freezers, my storage. The patrons that come and go kind of now know me. I'm at church more than they are, I tell you that much. And so they're rubbing off on me a little bit. But yeah,
That's
I
awesome,
definitely got
man.
lucky with that, and I've taken over the whole place, and I've got freezers. I think I've got I own 9 freezers now. So from the big commercial ones to the little ones that I had when I started. I don't even know what I was thinking when I started. I was like, oh, this small, $100 coffee cooler will suffice. No, no, it won't. So but yeah, so I got lucky with the cooking space. And then even with that, things you don't know, it's the paperwork. And we talked a little bit about this when we met.
Yeah.
I had no idea how much paperwork was involved with running a food business. It's almost a full-time job doing that. So, I mean, put the kiddo to bed at 9 o'clock, and I'm on my laptop for 4 hours, because it's just paperwork. And maybe I can get faster at it as I get better. But
Processes,
the
dude.
rules,
Yeah.
regulations, the permits, the
Yeah.
health inspection, that's it's all got to be buttoned up. Otherwise, you have no business anymore. So
Absolutely. And, that's another point just to go down the rabbit hole again. And I do want to spend some time today too talking about just your journey from Yorkshire and, coming to the US and your soccer scholarship. Dude, you're like an onion. You got so many layers, man. So many layers to you, brother. But like sourcing the beef, right? Like sourcing the pork, like what has that been like? Like, and I know you came from food industry, so you got an insight, but how has that been for you and Lizzie kind of maintaining that and making sure you got the product and quality and consistency? You want it to
right,
taste like
it's
Brit Boy every time, right? So
right,
that even the
right.
peppers, like the other ingredients, how do you get all that stuff?
Yeah, so there's a different and it's funny, I've just got started to get into the realm of different suppliers and different supply chains where to get things from. Definitely would love to source locally. I'm in we just went to a food meet the buyers and suppliers conference, so I definitely made some connections. So potentially in the future, given the price per pound of said protein, we will definitely be looking to source things locally here in Kansas City if that is an option. But at the
Absolutely.
same time, we've got to be realistic, right? My product is not cheap. $14 a pie is, it's a full meal, but it's $14 a head per person. It's more expensive than a pizza for a whole family, right? And I'm under no qualms about that. So if I can get the price per pound where I need it to be, then sourcing local will absolutely be the way to go. Currently, and it works out logistically. Again, it's one of those things, lady luck. Maybe I've shoveled enough shit in my life and career that kind of all the stars have aligned. I have to drive straight past Restaurant Depot from my house to my kitchen. So pretty much every time we're doing a cook, It is literally not out of my way even half a mile. So every week, we stop off at Restaurant Depot, we spend $1,000, and then we load it up in the car. We go to the kitchen to cook it, and for the most part, everything we've bought that morning is produced that day. So the shelf time and in the kitchen, the storage is very minimal. And then we just rinse and repeat it the next day. We're definitely getting better with freezing certain vegetable, like pre-prepping the
Yeah.
veggies and weighing them out and
Those
everything,
are
so we don't
harder,
have to
right?
do the slicing and dicing
Yeah.
every day. Absolutely. So we're really working on our processes as I am scaling up, and I've got a bit more help. And I now have essentially a kitchen manager, kind of running the show for me. So he's kind of telling me what to do now, which is nice. So, and then there's other options too, which when we do get bigger, might potentially. I've got a meeting lined up next week. So there's a couple of other companies that do the same thing as Restaurant Depot, but they deliver it for you.
Yeah.
So one of the problems I've got to suss is, getting it delivered means it's probably more expensive.
Right.
Is it easier for me? Is it solving a problem that I currently have? Is it not? Is it worth the extra cost? Is it not? And ultimately, these are the decisions you've got to make as a business owner, right? It's you don't say yes to everything, weigh the pros and cons, and kind of see which one fits best.
It's incredible, dude. It's just so so cool, man. Like the fact that you're bringing people are rallying around this, and it's no surprise to me either because like you and Lizzie wanting to bring people together, it's like I think that comes from a very genuine place. And it worked on me too, man. You're charmed, dude. First time I met you, bro, I was like, this dude's a real one. And Stephanie and I were talking about that coincidental meetup like for the next week, man. And I just it's just so fascinating to me, dude, how this stuff has just been unfolding and how um it I'm without words, dude. And I'm a man of many words, right? So the
Well, I think it's just if
yeah,
it's real and it's, I again I've met a lot of fakes in my career. Trying too hard, trying to be somebody they're not, or
right.
say one thing and do something else type thing. And I generally do believe if it's real and it's natural, it'll just flow, right? You can't fake. There's a lot of things you kind of can fake for a while, but then it ultimately, the truth comes out. But that desire, the work ethic, there's a lot, so many cliches out there, but when you're back against the wall, I'm 40 years old. I'm an 85 baby. So I'm 40 years old, and I made no money last year. Like I have no W-2 to show for 2025. But it's bigger than that, right? It's not just, oh, am I going to make money from this? I know I'm not making anything from this for a while. Hopefully that's about to change for sure as we scale up. But it's not, well, how much am I going to make from doing this? I don't care because I know the future massively outweighs the current. And it's, not everybody can. And again, not everyone can make the sacrifices. Hence, I'm very grateful for the partnership of my wife and paying all of the bills. She's definitely the sugar mama. So I definitely want to make sure everyone knows that for sure.
Go Lizzie.
And, she's crushing it at her job, and it's great to see. So it's,
Amazing.
not everyone can do that, but not everyone's willing to do that either. People take jobs because they make more money in this job than they had last job. They don't really, that's the priority, is how much can I make right now? That's never been the priority. I'd have a lot more money in the bank over my career if I was worried about how much money I was making. It's always been about investing in the future of whatever the business is that I was running. And it's side plug here for I own a pressure washing company in Seattle as well that we
That's
started with
right.
COVID. So,
You're an
so
onion, bro.
side
You're
plug
like an
for that.
onion.
Yeah. So we'll try to stay on track with
That's
Brit Boy
right,
today,
dude.
but
I love it,
um,
man.
uh, yeah, it's all about the future. You're trying to future proof it, and if you take everything out and try and make as much money as you can all the time, you'll never make anything long term. So it's just trying to future proof it and stabilize it so you can keep paying the dividends back for years and years to come. And that's what it's about.
Absolutely, man. Well, like, it's funny. I'm checking this question in my head, but like, I always feel like asking people like you, like, why are you so cool? You know? And
No one's ever told me I was cool in my career. That's for sure. Life, I was not the cool kid in school. That's for
oh
sure.
man, I wasn't either. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is the skills that you learn as a child and when you're really good at something. For me, it was guitar, right? I was in a band We were fortunate enough to get signed. We toured the world. We went across the pond once when I was in the band, and when I had quit, the guys went again. And that skill of playing guitar, man, laid dormant for a long time. And I've just now started my 6 year olds wanting to play, so I'm getting the guitars out. I'm playing. I'm getting back into it. I tell people I didn't go to college. I was in a band. I was in a metal band, and we were touring, and I pursued that. I went to college later on, like when I was 30, basically. But I tell people, I was like, that gave me my people skills. I had to be in really crappy situations when promoters wouldn't pay us, or when the person's house we thought we were going to stay at was really crummy or not safe, and we had to go buy a hotel room or whatever. Like, but I learned so much from doing that. Where I'm going from that is like your upbringing in Yorkshire, England, which is a county. It's a county in England, right? I looked
Yes,
at
sir. Yep.
brother. I looked it
Yep.
up before this recording this morning. I'm like, that is an incredible spot, right? And you
Right.
played soccer. You were so good at soccer that you got a scholarship to come to the U.S. to play, right? So, can you? I know I'm supposed to ask open-ended questions, but I'm kind of driving to a point here of like, Chris, man, like the connection there and that skill, how do you think that's prepared you? And maybe you take your answer in a different direction, but what influence has that had, and whatever else you want to share about your journey and your upbringing and just coming over to the United States as well. I'll just leave it open.
Yeah, no, it's I actually told a similar version of this the other day. So it it's hard to trace back. I want to, before I get into this, I just want to say I come from a very loving family. They sacrificed so much for me to play soccer, to get me to the States. My parents are still together. We saw their aunts and uncles all the time, so there was no bad anything with it. Um, it was growing up, it was football or nothing. There was no plan B. So yes, I was signed at an early age to a professional team. I was signed at 13, so I played in the younger levels, just like the under 13s, under 14s, and so on and so forth. So at 16 comes the reckoning in England. So just for the listeners, people listening, and they know the American system, and you go to college at 18 and you get a scholarship, hopefully, and you hopefully go on to the pros and so on and so forth. That time of reckoning in England in the soccer football world is 16 years old. So I'm still in high school, and ultimately, at 15, 16, you start to explore a little bit, right? Girls come into the picture.
Hormones.
I was a bartender. I mean, this probably didn't help me, as cool as this might sound. I was a bartender at 15 years old. That was my first job.
It's
So
amazing.
I went to the pub. I went to the pub on a Friday night for dinner with my parents, the one night a week that we ate out. 'Cause my mum was like, "I'm not cooking on Friday. It's the end of the week. We're going out." So we went out, and then within 20 minutes of being in this pub, there was a huge function on, and they were slammed. And my dad was like, "Chris will help. Get your ass behind the bar." So literally, I didn't even eat dinner that night. I don't recall. Maybe I snuck something off a plate, but I went for fun and ended up working till midnight. And that's how I became a 15-year-old bartender. But the flip side of that means I spent more time in pubs when I was 15 and 16. So being signed pro, I definitely got distracted. Let's just say the time, energy, and effort, and the discipline definitely lapsed because I'm 15, 16 years old. So, ultimately, I got released from the soccer team that I was at when the day of reckoning came. Uh, Agree or disagree, I just still don't think I should have been released, but it's that ship has sailed. I'm over it now, 25 years later. But so there was no plan B, I guess. And then just from working jobs, and again, you mentioned the college route. Um, I Between 16 and 18, you go to college in England, and then you go to university. So there's like a gap where you just kind of narrow down like what you want to do long term, and kind of figure out a subject or a profession that excites you. And then you go to university, and that's what you study. So in those college days, still being a bartender, going out now with my friends, I'm old enough kind of to actually do it legally. Um, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I said to my dad, I said, I want to go to university. And he simply asked me why. And I said, well, to say I've been. And he's like, "Well, I'm not paying for it. Then you better get a job. You don't know what you want."
Mm.
So I became a debt collector. So when my dad told me that I'd finished college, finished school, and then he wasn't paying me for it, I have no money. So I got a job and I became a debt collector. And then through doing that and meeting people and so on and so forth, I actually found myself coming to the States to do I worked a summer camp job in Deckers, Colorado. So between Colorado Springs and Denver in the mountains. And I remember getting the call and saying, "You've been selected, you've been placed, you're going to Colorado." And I was like, "Amazing. Where's that?" Like that was literally like, and I'd never heard of it before. And
Yeah.
then Google and Maps, this was 2008, I think. No, 2005, excuse me. I came here permanently in 2008. So 2005, the internet and Google was still new, so I had to Google it, and then ultimately I came here. I did 5,000 miles on the Greyhound by myself that same summer. So after the summer is finished, I had a bus ticket, jumped on and off. And throughout this experience of, I don't know how many American kids would be allowed to do 5,000 miles on a Greyhound by themselves at 18, 19 years old. But I was. And then I just grew up. I literally found myself. I figured out what I wanted to do. Still had no idea how to get there, but I wanted to be in America, and it just spoke to me. And when I've kind of really looked at the reasons why, it it goes back to that kind of the pub culture a little bit in England, which I do enjoy, and I do like it when I go back. But and again, I really, no names obviously mentioned here. I was able to take inventory when I was home of people just several years older than me with a similar educational level at that point in my career of just doing the same thing every day. They were
Mm.
in the pub 4 or 5
Yeah.
nights a week, and then they'd go home and they were kind of escaping what they were doing, and that was rampant. Yes, you build a local community and a culture with that. And it was cool when I was 16, 17, 18 because I was in the pub, right? But I quickly realized I was like, I want more than that, and that's all I can articulate it to. So I kind of ran away, to be honest with you. I kind of ran away of what I thought my life was going to be like, working in that factory, having that blue collar job, which is nothing wrong with, and I enjoy doing. But I just wanted more than that, and I found a way out, having no idea what it would lead to, or kind of the end result would be. And ultimately, I've said yes to a lot of things in my career and my life, and figured it out along the way. But that's ultimately where it came from. And then straight up, and this is so naive too. So yes, I got the soccer scholarship for school, which means school was for the most part paid for, not fully. It was about 85%. Um, but they were definitely, oh, I must have missed this because again, not the smartest cookie in the jar. I didn't realize how much school I actually had to go to. I thought I was just coming over here to play football. I was like, I got class 5 days a week. I got I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, but that hit me like a ton of bricks, for sure. And you know, I went from making less than a 2.0, let's say, my first semester, to making almost a 4.0 for my final 2 years of school. So
What'd you
I
study
learned.
for school? What was your major?
I was sports management major.
Okay.
Honestly, complete bullshit. It was like underwater basket weaving might have had more relevance,
Right, right.
but it was, I took the classes to get out, and then I just said yes to stuff in my career, and one thing's led to another. Quite frankly, the sacrifices that me and the wife have made, and just saying yes to things, and just kind of seeing where it would go, and just gambling on ourselves. And we've had some good times. We've had some really tough times. We've been screwed over so many times, and we've made bad decisions that we've learned from. But you like Brit Boy, you bounce back, you say yes, and you kind of see where it is. And the one thing I will say is, my career is never going to be in anybody else's hands anymore except my own. Like that's the not the last lesson by any means, but that's the biggest one of the biggest ones. The last Christmas was the last Christmas that it was like, this is never happening again, and we'll do whatever it takes to that our career's back in our own hands. Whatever that looks like, that's where it's going to be.
Man, I love that. That resonates with me too. I'm like, this will never happen again. I've told people even in my full-time gig, like, when I got hired on, I was like, I will never not have my LLC and my podcast. And this has been a very much a life-giving thing for me and has opened up opportunities. Like you and I would not be sitting here having this conversation. I wouldn't get to know people like you or the other folks, like folks who have sponsored this show, folks who have come on, people I still keep in touch with. And there is something powerful about that. I've told people, like, I really don't like this word empowerment. I've talked about it on the show before, and I use it. My disdain for that word is that nobody has the power to give me power. My default setting, bro, is high voltage AC/DC, freaking high voltage lightning thunder power.
Right.
If if I need to be empowered, that's because I've been disempowered and I've allowed an employer or whomever, insert blank here. I think everybody, if you think hard enough, you can think back to a time where, you lowered yourself or you made yourself second or whatever. And there are times where you do have to be a servant leader. In fact, servant leadership, I know it's a big buzzword. You always got to serve people. You serve other people. But there is this thing of like when you have your identity in the company you work for or your identity is in your profession and all that kind of stuff, well, then guess what? When that thing ends, you end too. It's just like living for the approval of others. If you live for the approval of other people, you're going to die when they reject you. And the fact that as traumatic as it is for you and your wife to both lose your job, it was on Christmas Day or the
No, it
day
was
before,
like 3 weeks prior.
3
Yeah, it
weeks
was. Yeah,
prior,
no,
just before.
December 8th.
Might
Yeah,
as well
December 8th.
been.
So Christmas, right? Christmas.
Might
Yeah,
as well
yeah.
been, right? Like the
Right.
fact that you were both together in that pit together and made that decision. I mean, that is a beautiful thing, man. And one thing too, like I never will say, people have tried when I've told them about what happened to me when I got laid off. They say, but it ended up being the best thing ever, right? I go, no, I will never say that was the best thing ever. But what I've done with that has been great, right? I always want to honor how it felt, that trauma. Like I don't want to bypass it. I had to go through a lot of grief. In many ways, I'm still recovering from that stuff. But man, it's so powerful what happens when you realize like I know where my worth is. I know what I'm gonna do moving forward, the lesson there. Um I love that,
No,
man.
yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't agree more. The two couple of little tidbits just from an educational perspective, and just a few stories is it's really funny when one of the biggest cultural differences where I come from, and I've got quite a lot of English friends. I've got my best friend's currently living with us. I've known him since I was 15, 16 years old. Uh, is culturally when you do get to meet somebody, and we were guilty of this when we first met. And we had some intro questions, and oh, you're rollerblading and so on and so forth. And I do want to actually just give you a quick compliment because what you mentioned it earlier, and to be honest, I forgot that you were kind of thinking about shutting up shop. Just from talking to you in the last week to two, well, actually the last month or so since we got this on the schedule, you're not the person that I met at the park. You, from an energy perspective, energy positivity, that you were a very different person a year ago when we met at the park from because you were thinking about closing up shop with this, right? And then I
Mm,
see you today, it's a completely different person.
I
So this is
appreciate
this
that.
is who you are. And I was like, it's very cool to see.
Thank you,
Um,
Chris.
and then the whole kind of identity, a lot of people I talk to, they'll talk to me about these ideas they've got, or I want to start my business, this, that, the other. And I was guilty of this. We had this idea of Brit Boy. Why didn't we quit our job and turn it on? Well, we were making great money from my basement in a very safe, it's very safe until it's not, environment. And we were not, I absolutely will say this, we were not strong enough or brave enough to say, you know what? We believe so much in this. We're going to give up our corporate cushy gig while we raise our family, and take this risk. We were not brave enough to do that. Maybe without the kid, we might have been. I don't know. But it, obviously having a kid does change you. You got to think, oh, I've got powder to pay for, right? So, um, so most people, myself included, we were not brave enough. So then a situation happens. So now what do you do? So obviously it's kind of forced us into doing that. And from a cultural perspective, when we do meet somebody in America, one of the very first questions I've always asked, "What do you do for a living?" And before Brit, so now I've got even more phrases to say. So, people like to boast about what they do for a living and so on and so forth because their identity is wrapped up in, as you say, what they do. So even I had the corporate job, whatever. When people would ask me what I did for a living, I would literally tell them, "Oh, I spray water for a living." Because of my power washing business. My wife actually hates it when I say that, because I don't need to sell you on me and my character, and for you to judge me on how much respect to give me because of the answer I'm about to give you.
Mm,
And I don't care how much money you're successful, how much money you make, or how successful you are. If you ask me what I do for a living very quickly on, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole of how important I am for this company or whatever the case. So and I guarantee you, people aren't making $400 an hour sat behind their desk doing whatever job they're doing. Where spraying water for a living, we make $400 an hour running a pressure washing business in Seattle,
right.
right? So it's like spray water for a living. So I just like I really love the irony of like, wrong with this guy? And ultimately, I don't that feeling that need to sell myself to somebody so they can decide how much respect to give me or attention
Yeah.
or time to give me as we're getting to know each other. So what do I do for a living now? Oh, I make meat pies. I make meat pies. What do you mean you make meat? Yeah, I make meat pies. Yeah, I don't. They don't. So
I
it's just a yeah,
I realized that too. You told me I'm a stay-at-home dad. And I was like,
yeah, yeah.
this
I did.
this dude, I like this dude. I like this
I
dude.
did. Yeah, I did. Didn't I?
I
Yeah,
knew it. I knew I was like, I love taking the third way, man. I love not submitting to that binary equation of like what I do, and being a strategist in a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to engineer
yeah.
it. And this,
That's a great. That is perfect. That analogy that's exactly what it is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I this has been one of the coolest conversations I've had on this podcast, Chris. I'm so grateful for you. Um, you know, I know what we'll do. We'll probably have you on again in the future, maybe later this year. I've been doing this more with folks that I've got that personal relationship with, or they've had successes they want to report, or they've got learnings they want to do. So we'll talk about more next time we have you on. But is there anything that you want to kind of leave our listeners and folks that you bring to this episode before we kind of sign off here?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's the nervousness, right? So money is a big part of it. We all need to make money to pay bills, survive, look after your family, all that type of stuff. But I think the biggest um lesson I would kind of, I want to share with people is you're not supposed to have all the answers and everything figured out before you start something. And I think a lot of people, they say they're perfectionists and so on and so forth. Like, yeah, do everything you can to the best of your ability. Absolutely. Give it your all. But it's never going to be perfect. So get over that real quick. But you're not supposed to have all the answers and you don't know where something's going to be. And, yes, we sell pies and sausage rolls for a living. I got to sell a lot of sausage rolls to make the hourly rate that my power washing company makes, right? So it's not even the same thing. That piece of equipment that I need to buy it's a lot of sausage rolls I got to sell.
Whew.
Um,
Yeah.
and you're just not supposed to have all the answers. So you're supposed to figure it out. And that's the fun. That's the fun part of it. And this is where I think one of the lessons a lot of people have to learn as they get into entrepreneurship is a lot of them are so used to clocking out at a certain time and focusing solely on family, friends, Netflix. The amount of people have asked me this year, "Have you seen this show?" And the answer is no. I haven't. I put reruns of shows I've already watched on the background while I'm on my computer for 4 hours because I'm not really paying attention. Um, but it's not work anymore. There's no clock in, there's no clock out. It's just this thing that you do. When people ask, and they've always said, like, I've always worked harder than most people I've met. Just the business. I'm not better than them. The business side and the entrepreneurship means I've got to work more. But at the same time, I don't just have 10 vacation days a year. I've got 6 months if things are going well, right? And I don't have to be there every day. So there's pros and cons to it all, but I'm not working hard. I'm not working at all. It's just this thing that I do. That's all it is. And if you find that thing that you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Amazing, man. I love it. I'm going to save everything else for next time we have you on the show, my man. I so appreciate you, Chris.
Well,
Oh, go ahead. What are you going to say?
no, say thank you for this is say hi to people at the park, guys, and you never know what might happen. And just don't ask them what they do for a living. That's the takeaways.
And if you're
Just
asked
let it
what you
come out.
do for a living, try to be more creative than your job title and where you work for. That's the thing that I realized when I was in that circular swirl of networking a decade ago, like, and going through multiple identity crises. I was like, I gotta start finding more creative ways, because I noticed people would do things like what you did with me in the park. And I was like, I remember those conversations. I remember when, they defined what they did as what they did, what was at the core, or what they enjoyed about doing it. And so, Chris, we're going to be putting your socials in the show notes, out there on, all the platforms. But aside too from the event that's happening next Saturday, is that the 21st?
Yep,
Yep.
21st, 3 o'clock friction. What we didn't mention earlier was we're white labeling Brit Boy beer. So
What does
again,
white
things
labeling
just
mean?
happen, right? White label, basically, I'm putting my name on somebody else's hard work.
Oh,
In a nutshell. So we went and we co-brewed. So Doug Steele, the head brewer at Friction Beer
shout
Co.
Doug.
He's an absolute artist. Shout out Mr. Doug Steele over there. He has a specialty, again, just happenstance. He specializes in English beer. And he's won awards and he just loves English beer. So during one of my drop-offs for a customer, he was in the back where the freezer is, and we just got talking. And I was like, in my business plan, long way away from now, we're going to have beer with our name on it that we're brewing in our factory and facility. And then realizing how far away that is, I was like, wait a second, can't you do this for me? And he's like, yeah, we can totally do that for you. So more conversations have happened, and we've got a English pale ale going to be on tap and in cans, launching on the 21st of March. So if you like that type of beer and want to support Friction, support Brit Boy. And the cool part, and again, this is the bringing people together. This is the saying thank you. If you showcase you're a customer of mine, you get $2 off a pour. So just show them a receipt from a farmer's market, a pop-up, an online order. Just show the bartender your receipt, and they'll take $2 off your bill. And I'm making Friction whole, so they're not out anything. And it's just my way of saying, hey, thank you for being a customer. Come to Friction, drink this beer. It's a bit cheaper than maybe elsewhere because you're getting $2 off. And it's just my way of saying thank you, and this collaboration, and the label is sick. I just got through for the label, and we're putting it on next week. So it's all coming together.
Yeah, we'll be there, bro. I talked to Stephanie about it this morning, so we're
Awesome.
bulldozing the schedule. We're gonna make sure we're there. So, Chris, I appreciate you. Everybody support this man. Support what's that? What'd you say?
You're awesome, man. You're awesome. You are like small business cheerleader. Your energy, your
Yo,
enthusiasm,
dude.
you've got your own story to tell. So maybe we can switch these places one day, and you can tell yours if you haven't already. But yeah,
Yeah,
what a cheerleader for small business you are, Michael. Thank
my
you very
man,
much.
this is why we do it. This is why I started the podcast. I think I might, if I didn't tell you this already, but this started because I should be recording these conversations anyway. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we walk out of these like that thing in the park, man. That would have been awesome to record that, right? But obviously, we're all sweaty. It's 4th of July, all that. But this is exactly why I do it. This is the point of this show, was that we wanted to talk to people that we're actually doing life with. Our kids are going to go to the same school, right? Like we shop at the same grocery stores, bro. And we're going to go pick up our Brit Boy pies from these local markets, right? It's just, this is what
You
it's
might get yours
about.
delivered at this point. You might get yours
Hey,
delivered at this point. So we'll see.
yeah. Well, I definitely love that aspect, and that's something that I think has come full circle in this conversation as well. And so, man, Chris, so good having you on. Everybody, check
Thank
out
you.
Chris's links. We'll be getting this episode out today. Get some reels, and we'll see y'all at Friction Beer next Saturday.